Hello and welcome back to my Crash Team Racing All Platinum Relic run. So in this part of the video we're going to be doing the second half of Adventure Mode, and that includes the two bonus unlockable tracks, Slide Coliseum and Turbo Track. So yeah, as I mentioned in the last part of the video, I actually think that this half of the game is a little bit easier than the last half of the game, purely because the first half of the game has the most difficult track. But where the first half of the game has the most difficult track, the second half of the game does have more sort of difficult tracks, but not as difficult, if you know what I mean. So it sort of balances itself out. With this track, the hardest part is that shortcut that I took on the first lap, where you have to actually be getting quite a lot of boosts to make it over the snow and make it over that bit of a ramp, where I went to the left of this area. But yeah, other than that, this is fairly straightforward. There's really only that one shortcut that's a little bit difficult. Other than that, fairly easy to keep track of where you've been and where you need to go. There's a little bit actually where there's a box in like the dip of a ramp where you have to sort of brake a little bit so you don't just fly over it. But yeah, as you can see, I'm just clearing out all the boxes that I've left behind. Oh yeah, here's the one where there's a box in a gap, like the sort of dip of a ramp. As you can see there, I slowed down in order to make sure that I actually got that. So there are a couple of finicky boxes that you could potentially miss, but none that are too difficult. I do like this track. I think I prefer this track to the other snowy track that we're going to be seeing in a minute. I think it's an easier track than the other snowy one, but I think it's just overall better. I actually almost got the platinum on that without the help of the time boxes, giving me the 10-second bonus there. That's quite good. I know in some of the later tracks I do actually beat the platinum time without the 10-second time bonus. So it is possible to do without getting all of the time boxes, but I just feel like getting all of the time boxes is kind of the way it was intended to be done, because there's always been that thing in Crash Bandicoot where you have to break all the boxes to get the gem, and I feel like this mode is sort of the equivalent of that. Like sort of the collectathon mode of Crash Team Racing, I suppose. Which is quite cool, and that's something that I talked about in my review, so I won't go too in depth into it here, but it's really cool how they transferred elements of the actual Crash games into this one, because it kind of makes it feel like a core Crash Bandicoot game rather than just a spin-off. Like it kind of has the heart of a normal Crash Bandicoot game. Also, just there I crashed into a wooden pole, and yet I still get the platinum, so this is obviously one of those tracks where you can make mistakes. It's quite lenient in the Platinum Relic time. Even though at first glance it doesn't look lenient, because when you think like, oh, I need to do this entire track, 3 laps of the track in 54 seconds, that seems a little bit daunting, but then you need to remember that you've got the time boxes as well, so you're not actually doing it in 54 seconds. Ah, I missed the 2-second time box there. That must have annoyed me when I was actually playing it. If by any chance you haven't watched the first part of this video, I'm not playing this at the same time as recording the commentary, just because, well, that would be pretty much impossible. It would have taken me ages. I would have been non-stop talking for hours and hours. So I feel like it's best to just edit the clips where I actually get the platinum and then talk over it. Feel like that way the video is just more concise. It's kind of less of a let's play and more of like a sort of guide or walkthrough, I suppose. But yeah, it's obviously less formal than like a guide. So it's half let's play, half guide. So yeah, the time there is actually really lenient, especially considering that I crashed straight into a pole, and I still beat the time by quite a few seconds, by about 4 seconds. So this is the second snow track that I was talking about. I said that I didn't prefer this one as much, but I think that's just because it annoyed me on the, I think it was the time trial where this one annoyed me more so than the relic, if I remember right. Just because I kept making stupid mistakes, and it was beginning to frustrate me. I'm not sure... Yeah, I would say that the entropy time trials are easier than the Platinum Relics, but they are around the same difficulty, which is why I'm doing videos on both. So the entropy time trial videos will be out after these. So if you're interested in seeing me do them, you can look forward to that. I don't play as Crash Bandicoot in the time trial videos either, so there's a bit of visual variety. I know that these videos are basically me doing the same tracks, but it is different, as you'll see if you watch the time trial videos. You sort of have to take different routes and do different things, because obviously with this, the time crates force you to take directions in the track that might be slower and that you wouldn't normally take. Which is an interesting design choice for the developers to have made, because it kind of forces you to learn the tracks inside and out. Like with the implementation of the time boxes and the CTR tokens and adventure mode, you kind of get to really know the tracks. And I feel like that's when you're supposed to do the time trials. Like when you know the tracks inside out and you can do them really fast, and you know all of the game's like mechanics, like drift boosting and stuff like that you learn in adventure mode. But yeah, I went into that sort of thing when I reviewed the game. Again, if you want to watch the review, it's available on my channel. I think at the time that I upload this, it was probably one of the more recent reviews on there, so it should be easy to find. I suppose one thing with this track is that it's actually kind of more of an ice theme than a snow theme, so I suppose the track before was sort of the snow one, and this one's ice, so like even though it's similar, it is a little bit different. But yeah, I actually was talking about that in my review, saying that it's good how this game doesn't have tracks that share the same visual theme apart from the ice and snow one. Unless you count that as being different themes, which you could easily do. They do have different gimmicks, they are very differently laid out. I will say that this track does have a pretty difficult shortcut. I kind of made it look easy in this video, but jumping over that sort of wall is a lot harder than it looks. I did mess that up a couple of times. But yeah, as far as, I mean, the actual track design of this track is quite difficult, but getting the time boxes is actually fairly straightforward. Like, there's none that are like that out of the way. In fact, I almost beat the Platinum time without the aid of the time boxes again. So yeah, it's not too difficult. There's definitely room for error with that one. Quite a lot of room for error, actually. In fact, I wonder there if you could have fallen off of the track and still got the Platinum. That'd be interesting to know. Because typically, obviously, if you fall off of the track in a time trial or a relic race, it's just an instant restart because there's no point in carrying on. This is probably the longest track in the entire game, and I'm a bit... I think I would have liked this track a bit more if it would have been shorter, because it's kind of like... It has the main gimmick of being like really bumpy so that you can get lots of like boosts when you hit the floor. And there's a lot of like sort of tight corners where you can drift around them and stuff like that, but it's kind of like that's the only gimmick, and that's just like the only thing that separates this track from other tracks in the game. And it kind of just becomes a bit tiring after a while. Like, it's not enough of a good gimmick to have such a long track that's just fully devoted to that. There is obviously the mud as well, which is a gimmick that's not in any other track. But you hardly ever touch the mud, so it's not really like that important. But yeah, I feel like if this track would have been probably twice as short actually, it would have been a good track, but I just find it a little bit irritating as it stands. It is another easy one to get the Platinum Relic on, because it's another one of those where you don't really need to go all that fast, but you just need to go fast enough, and you just need to get all of the crates, and then you're good to go. I think there's room to make errors in this track as well. There's hardly any points in this track where there's actually 3 boxes next to each other as well. Actually, there is one there. Yeah, I had to make a bit of a mistake there to actually get all of the boxes, because obviously with me being on the second lap, I wouldn't have been able to have gotten all 3 of those by the end of the race, so I kind of had to do an emergency stop and turn around and get all the boxes. But yeah, what I was going to say is that there aren't that many places in this track where there's 3 boxes next to each other, and you would have to restart if you didn't get one on one of the laps. Because even though there are 3 boxes next to each other quite a lot on this track, they're mostly like positioned diagonally, so you can sort of drift into all 3 of them if you position yourself right, rather than in most tracks where the 3 boxes are next to each other and they're like fully next to each other so that you can't get more than one on one lap, if you know what I mean. I know what I mean. That was a bit of an awkwardly positioned box, just because you had to be on the right side of the track, which feels really unnatural, but you can go into the mud and get it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I will say that when I did the time trials after completing adventure mode, because I was using a faster character, you could actually really tell the difference, just because I got so like used to how Crash moved, that when I started using Dingo Dial it felt like way faster, and I didn't really realise how much of a difference the stats actually made in this game until then. Like, I obviously knew there was a difference, but didn't realise quite how much until I did the time trials. Not that I've never done the time trials before, it's just that I don't think I've ever done like every bit of content in this game in such a short amount of time before.
But obviously I had to do it in a short amount of time because I wanted to get the review out there.
Oof, that was close. I was thinking that I was going to go past that then. But yeah, fairly easy track. It's just very time consuming. Yeah, I beat the platinum time by a lot there. God. You can actually make a ton of mistakes in that track then. It's just weird because why is this, like, this track's relic race is so much easier than some of the ones in the like second hub area, yet that's later in the game. It doesn't really make sense. But I guess the tracks are obviously like balanced to be played in adventure mode, but they're kind of just like, I don't know, there isn't really like a set difficulty to them. It's just kind of like some tracks have more unique designs than others, as opposed to some tracks being more difficult than others. So that's probably why the adventure mode is a little bit unbalanced, because with it being just a kart racer, you're kind of just supposed to play the tracks in any order you want. So I guess it makes sense that the difficulty would be kind of messed up for the adventure mode.
There is a little bit of a difficulty curve, obviously, but it can be a little bit weird at times.
This is a track, actually, that took me a few attempts, nowhere near as much as Papu's Pyramid though, but yeah, I think this weird bit threw me off when I first did it, because it's kind of like, I don't think you can get all of those time boxes there without stopping. Or if you can, I don't know how exactly you would do it. I'm sure somebody's figured out a better strategy than literally stopping and going backwards to get them all, like I just did though. The thing being as well though that you've got to remember is that
you aren't going to want to get any of the 3-second time boxes on the third lap,
because otherwise you're not going to be getting the benefit of the time freeze. So you would have to get all of them on the first and second lap and do that smoothly without stopping. Like, I just don't see how that's particularly possible. Because it's not like they're laid out in a way where you're supposed to drift into them or anything. They're literally just sort of placed there. But I don't know. It doesn't really matter, so long as you get the platinum. It doesn't... Who cares, really? I mean, I don't even know if there is sort of like a speedrun like category or anything for the relic races in Crash Team Racing. Like, I don't know if there's anybody that actually does keep track of like the world record for the time trial speeds. Not the time trial speeds, the relic time speeds. Probably is, though. I imagine it's the sort of game that does have categories like that. But as I said in the first video, I'm not in the loop of that. Don't think I've ever watched a Crash Team Racing speedrun or anything like that. I just play it and enjoy it for what it is. I've always liked this track. I think this has got a really interesting theme, being set in like Engine's labs, and I think it just looks pretty cool with like all of the weird like acid waterfalls and the like green colour theme and stuff. It doesn't look like anything else in Crash Team Racing. It really stands apart visually. Plus the actual design of the track is pretty cool too, having that like boost tunnel gimmick, which is always cool. Cortex Castle, again one of my favourite tracks. And I think the reason it's one of my favourites is just entirely down to the theming. So it's sort of like a haunted castle almost. I mean, it's not explicitly haunted, there's no ghosts or anything like that, but it's got some of the tropes like the spiders and just it being the main villain's castle and stuff like that. It's always looked a little bit spooky. It's also got the section at the end with the stained glass windows and stuff, and I've always kind of liked the aesthetic of that sort of thing. But other than that, it's just a really well designed level. It's got the huge jump at the end, it's got lots of twists and turns. It's got a really tight corner actually where you need to sort of like brake in the air and do a bit of a sharp turn. With this level, probably the hardest part is this shortcut here, which I'm not sure that I actually take. Oh, I do take it, okay. I'd normally want to get the third boost before taking that shortcut, so that was a bit risky. But yeah, that's probably the hardest bit to do. I mean, there's this bit here where the time boxes are kind of like all spread out, but if you kind of like pay attention to what you're doing, you can get them all quite easily by getting them all just normally going through the level, as opposed to like stopping and turning around or anything like that. I'm surprised I didn't get that 1 second time box just there. It's a bit of a cheeky one. That's a bit of a cheeky 2-second one as well. In fact, what the hell? I'm very surprised that I got the Platinum Relic doing that. Like, I literally had to reverse. Like, you never have to reverse in this game. God, that spider almost got me as well. Actually, I remember doing this, and I remember thinking, if that spider hits me, I'm going to restart. But then it didn't hit me, so I felt like I had to continue. And luckily it paid off. There are actually some awkwardly placed boxes here that I didn't remember about. But it's just like stuff that's placed like on a corner, as opposed to stuff that's placed where you can't see it. It's kind of placed in obvious positions, but positions that are sort of hard to get to at the same time. Let's get this 1 second time box. Yeah, there we go. So again, a very lenient Platinum Relic time. Seeing as I made that big mistake where I had to reverse, and yet still get it. I do feel like this game can be quite lenient in terms of the relic times. Unlike Crash Bandicoot 3, which was a lot harder to get the Platinum Relics on, if I remember right. I actually did that quite a while ago now. Don't know exactly when I uploaded the videos, but It was a while ago, it was at some point, like maybe early last year. So it's not as fresh in my memory as it was back then. I did have to do a bit of messing around at the end there. Yeah, but how crazy is that? I actually beat the Platinum time without the 10-second time bonus, yet I made one big mistake and that little mistake at the end. That's insane. Hot Air Skyway I've always seen as sort of being the Rainbow Road of Crash Team Racing, just because it's in the sky and it's and it doesn't have barriers for a lot of it. But it's a lot easier than Rainbow Road typically is, to be honest. And it's not the last track in the game either, which probably means it isn't really the Rainbow Road of Crash Team Racing, it just kind of looks like it is. That shortcut there, I sometimes I can do it without even trying, and sometimes I can't do it at all. Like I remember when I was doing the time trials, I actually didn't take that shortcut at all, because I tried to do it, and 5 times in a row I failed it, and 5 times in a row I had to like restart the race. So I just gave up and didn't take the shortcut anymore. And yet here I seem to just do it without even trying. I don't know, maybe the faster characters can't do the jumps as well, I don't know. Or maybe it's just me. This is another track where it's actually quite easy to get all of the time boxes. I mean, a lot of the tracks are like that. Just a lot of the tracks are just like, the time boxes are just there right in front of you, but it's a matter of getting them in the right order so that you can remember what you're doing. Like here, I seem to be going for all of the middle time boxes and then just drifting off to the side whenever I see one on its own. I tend to try and have some sort of strategy like that. Like when I first start a race, I'll try and get all of the boxes on the left side of the track or something like that. And then on the second lap I'll get the middle, and then the third lap I'll get the right. But obviously when you're actually playing the game, you can't always stick to that because your positioning might not be right, so you might have to go and get a box on one of the sides of the road when you're aiming for the middle. But then you have to remember that you've done that for the next laps. But yeah, most of the time it's kind of just as well a matter of making it up as you go along. Like if you see a box, you just need to make sure you get it. It's as simple as that. There's really no particular strategy for this track, so there isn't really that much to say. It's just a matter of drifting and boosting around every corner while making sure you don't fall off of the track. And also making sure you get all of the time boxes. I wonder if I did this one on my first attempt. You can see up there in the top left that it says the Sapphire time, which means I hadn't got the Sapphire relic, so it could have been my first attempt. A lot of them will say the Platinum time at the top left, and that's when I have already got the gold relic. So that'll be like either a second attempt or like just a later attempt. I always don't like the end of these not time trial. I keep making that mistake. I always don't like the end of the relic races because you've already gotten all of the time boxes, so it just feels like you're not getting any time boosts at all. And it just makes it feel like you're going really slow because you can't hear the sound of the clock stopping all the time. Yeah, I mean, that's a relatively hard platinum time to beat. I did need the 10-second time boost there, but not too difficult. Now, Oxide Station is technically the last track of the game, but there are the 2 extra unlockable tracks which are going to be included in this video. So I suppose technically Oxide Station is the Rainbow Road of Crash Bandicoot, with it being the last track in the game. But I don't know, this one doesn't feel like Rainbow Road just because there's not really anywhere where you can fall off. Like everywhere's always got a barrier. I also I like to do the like massive skip in this track, which I know about, but obviously with me having to get all of the time boxes, I can't actually do the skip in this video. So you'll have to wait for the time trial video to see me do that. One thing I've always liked about this track is how it's the only track in the game that has low gravity. It's like they introduced these like level gimmicks, but then they're literally only there for that one level, so it really makes that level stand out. But yeah, it's just weird, like they developed, like they programmed low gravity into the game and literally only use it one time. I always like it when developers do that sort of thing. I mean, loads of games do that, but I can't really think of any examples now that I've said that, but yeah. I mean, there's the thing in Metal Gear Solid 2 where they programmed, like, individually melting cubes of ice, and it's only ever used in the first bit of the game, where you can, like, shoot a bucket off of the side of a counter and it'll fall onto the floor and the ice will actually melt in real time. Pretty cool. I mean, the odds of... It's just weird, like, such a obscure attention to detail for them to have put into the game, because, like, even if... Like, not many players are going to see it, because not many players are going to see the bucket, shoot the bucket, and then actually stand there and watch the ice melt. So it's just, like, such an obscure thing where not many people are even going to ever see it. I think it's quite a widely known thing now, though, so people have probably gone out of the way to look at it now. But yeah, that's a bit above just programming low gravity into a game, because everybody's going to see the low gravity. But yeah, this is an example of a track that's quite long, like Tiny Arena, but this is sort of more interesting because it's long but it has more going on. Like there's sort of more gimmicks sprinkled into the track to stop it from actually feeling long. Like there's all of the bits with the boosting, all of the bits with these like winding bits of the track, the bits with the low gravity as well. It's just kept feeling really fresh throughout it. Like I think the low gravity starts in this section here where you can see the outside, and then obviously these jumps are done in low gravity as well, which is probably why it looks so weird and floaty on the screen. And then there's just that bit as well where you jump like between the two bits of the track where you've already driven before in the lap. That's just really cool, really good like track design, how you can see the parts of the track that you've already visited before. Like if you're obviously playing this with other people, there's a chance that you'll see all the racers on that bit as well. So it'll just look really cool and dynamic when you're playing it. So that's the last level of the game. Again, not a particularly difficult one, to be honest. A lot of them, I would say about 90% of the tracks in the game actually aren't that hard to get the Platinum Relic on. But it's like that 10% where it is difficult that really like makes the game difficult as a whole. Because the 10% that are difficult are actually really difficult. These two unlockable tracks, Slide Coliseum and Turbo Track, are both really, really easy to get the Platinum Relic on. Or I found them really easy anyway. In fact, in the next track, Turbo Track, I make some really, really big mistakes and yet I still get the Platinum. So that's a bit weird. That 3-second time box on top of that wheel just there is actually quite hard to get. Because you have to be going at like just the right speed and jump at just the right time to make sure that you don't go too high, but also that you don't go too low and hit into the wheel itself. So that one can be a little bit tricky. I think there's another time box that's on top of a wheel as well, actually. Maybe in this next section, just here. Unless I'm wrong, maybe there... Oh yeah, there it is. off in the distance there, which I'm... Yep. Oh no, yeah, that's what I was talking about. You can very easily misjudge the jump there and go way too high and just fly over the 3-second time box. Which isn't ideal, and I actually don't know how I correct that, because there was also a box next to that, which I'm probably going to need to go back for. And again, yet I still get the Platinum Relic. It's a bit insane. If they were to remake this game, I would actually kind of hope, in a way, that they made the Platinum Relics harder to get. Which is probably a weird thing to be asking for, but I don't know. I feel like the extra challenge would be good. So here, oh, I messed up the jump completely. Wow. Probably the biggest mistake I've made in the whole 2 videos of this. But I did correct it pretty quick. I made it look quite smooth, I think. It was a mistake, but a smooth mistake. Yeah, like this bit of the race where you're on the last lap, but there's just no time boxes anywhere, and you're just very aware that your time is just constantly ticking down. Another mistake as well, my god. Again, though, quite smoothly corrected. That's probably why I got the Platinum, because even though I made mistakes, I did correct them pretty quick. Although, then again, having said that, I beat it by like 20 seconds, even with those mistakes. So, like, imagine how fast I could have done that if I hadn't have made the mistakes. Probably could do it in like around a minute. It's ridiculous. So Turbo Track, this is a bit of a weird level, and it's one where I've never really fully gotten used to it, because the boost pads actually give you different levels of boost in this track, and it's the only track in the game that does that. Normally the boost pads will just give you a set amount of boost every time you land on one. But here, it's like some will boost you a little bit, some will boost you a lot. It's just kind of odd, but it's an interesting gimmick and I'm glad it's in the game. But because of the weird boost pads, it does make some of these time boxes quite difficult to get. Yeah, like, you can very easily crash into walls in this level because of the boost pads. But yeah, as far as the actual layout of the track is like straightforward, really. Like, it's just like really wide turns for the most part, so you can kind of see everything that's ahead of you before it happens. So you can see where the boxes are, and it's just a matter of actually hitting into them. Yeah, there I think I avoided hitting that boost pad just because I saw that there was a box right in front of the wheels, so I didn't want to crash. These are the tightest turns in the entire game, and I think this is like the only point in the game where you literally, or maybe one of the only points actually, where you actually have to brake to make it around the corners. There is the bit in Cortex Castle actually that I mentioned earlier, where you go up the ramp. And I always find that you can get around the corner really easily if you brake while in the air. So there's that, and this, and I think they're the only times where you actually need to brake. But yeah, I think that with this being like, oh my god, I did mess up there quite a lot. No, look at that. Like, boosted the wrong way and then crashed into a wall and still got the Platinum Relic. You wouldn't ever get that sort of thing in Crash 3. Like, if you made a mistake like that in Crash 3, there's no way you'd be getting the Platinum Relic. Some of the Platinum Relic times in Crash 3 are insane. And yet this is a racing game. You'd think they'd be harder in this. But anyway, getting near the end now. This is the last track in the game, so it's the last one of this video. So I hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope my commentary hasn't been too rambly. And yeah, I'm going to be making the Entropy time trial video soon, so if you're interested in that, give them a watch, and I'll see you then. So until next time, bye!